Good morning. Good morning. And thank you very much for having us here today. On behalf of my partners, Tzippy and Michele, I'm Leba. We're from the Amatz Initiative, from Amatz. And we really, first of all, we want to thank you for hosting us here today. It's been really fascinating. Thank you to the Mayberg Foundation and the JEIC for bringing us into this inclusive group of incredibly passionate educators, people who are so invested in the future of Klal Yisrael. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. So Amatz was created in 2016 to address issues in the Orthodox educational system. Too many students are graduating without having the opportunity to define their religious selves. They're doing much of their practice by rote and without developing a meaningful connection to God. And this kind of translates into a lack of enthusiasm for their mitzvah observance. They're often disenchanted with perpetuating core values, and sadly often lack Jewish pride. See, in our schools, students are taught a vast amount of knowledge, which is amazing and wonderful and so necessary. And they're taught how to do mitzvot, when to do mitzvot, where to do mitzvot, sometimes why to do them, but never why you should want to do them, and why, if you do them, you will live a more meaningful life. Amatz is giving the educators the tools to teach the students not only how to live it, but how to love it. A line that I had written before, we heard Rabbi Aaron say it last night. Now we're going to hear from Michele.
Thank you, Leba. So in order to illustrate how we incorporate a connection to God in our everyday lives, I've passed out a note card. What I'd like everyone to do is write a timeline. From the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to sleep, please star your God moments during the day. I'll give you a minute to complete this. How many of you had more than 10 God moments during your day? Anyone? What was anybody's longest gap between their God moments? 2 hours, 5 hours, nothing?
Yes.
How much time between? 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Okay. So Judaism is not just a religion of doing, but it's connecting to Hashem in an authentic relationship. We have the potential to be constantly connected to Hashem every second of every minute of every day. And those gaps in the timeline can be turned into meaningful connections. The goal is there should be no gaps in your day for anybody. Although the three of us have always led Torah-committed lives, we've been personally transformed, our lives have been enhanced, and they've been elevated by an approach disseminated by Rav Noach Weinberg of blessed memory. Rav Noach was a leader in the Baal Tshuva movement. And what's so fascinating is that what he developed for the Baal Tshuva movement is a fundamental theory to every single Jew, no matter what their affiliation is. And as a result of our personal affiliations, we said that the schools need this, our kids need this. At Amatz, we have a top-down, four-pronged approach. We've taken 56 principles on an Israel mission to date. We have taught over 500 teachers throughout the country and, in fact, throughout the world. And we have touched, because of that, 30,000 students. This fourth prong, and we thank the Mayberg Foundation and the JEIC, has helped us create a curriculum, a 6 constant mitzvot curriculum, which is designed to blend the Torah wisdom and the cutting-edge modality of PBL. To date, we have piloted this in 5 schools, and it's written in such a way that the non-affiliated, all the way through the Hasidish, can be taught in their schools.
So what is this approach all about? And how did we use this approach to write the Nishmas Chaya 6 Constant Mitzvos curriculum? So the Torah is itself a comprehensive strategy and a comprehensive curriculum that enables anyone who invests in it to develop a more meaningful and real relationship with God. However, certain mitzvot, 6 to be exact, 6 of the 613, are goal mitzvos of Judaism. They're the mitzvos of thought. They're the mitzvos of heart and of mind. All the other 607 mitzvos of the 613 are pathways to the destination of having an intimate relationship with the Almighty. We have so many needs as human beings. We are thinking and feeling beings, and we're often consumed by our basic human desires. As we portrayed earlier, we don't necessarily attribute those daily struggles and challenges to the opportunity to connect to the Almighty. From the serious to the mundane, from sitting in a doctor's office waiting for a diagnosis, to being pulled over by a traffic cop, to the dishwasher breaking down, to the babysitter not showing up, to missing your appointment, to having a hoarse voice when you're supposed to present, right? We don't attribute them to our connection to the Almighty. These 6 mitzvos fill these needs by providing a framework for our feelings. They're constant because there's a constant opportunity to perform them. There's a constant obligation to perform them. And there's also a constant temptation to transgress them. And unfortunately, many people are aware of the wisdom in teaching these teachings this way. There are very learned religious people who don't know what the 6 constant mitzvos are, what the 6 mitzvos tmidios are. And there's great wisdom in this study, and it really addresses our feelings in a very holistic way. And this is something that's applicable to anybody, no matter what your background. What is the Jewish approach to love, to pleasure, to relationships, to trust? What is the Torah approach to boundaries, to consequences, to self-esteem, to self-worth? Our Nishmas Chaya 6 Constant Mitzvos curriculum faces all of these topics and more head on, and creates a safe space in the classroom to have these discussions in a fusion of the great Torah wisdom of the 6 constant mitzvos, together with a cutting-edge modality of project-based learning. And so in a sense, what it does is it transforms the frontal or didactic process of teaching into a student-led exploration, whereby the students can experience these ideas in an interactive environment, and they can apply them to their daily lives.
So you have in front of you 4 different pictures, and these 4 pictures can tell a story based on how you number the sequence of events. There are a number of different versions, possibilities, that can tell different stories, and I'd like if you can take a moment to look at these pictures and tell us what story came up in your mind. This is just a tiny snapshot of one of the lessons of one of the 6 constant mitzvahs in the short time we've been allotted. If you don't mind not writing on the paper, because we were told not to do any handouts, so these are the papers we're giving everybody. Just. Anyone ready to share their story, their version of the story?
Go ahead.
In the interest of time, I'll give it a whirl. So we have here, there's this stack of blocks, and it falls, and what causes it to fall. So maybe it could be there's the blocks, the wind occurs, the blocks fall, and the girl comes in, and there's nothing there, right?
Beautiful. That's a version. Anybody has any different way of explaining the circumstances?
I'll add one that sort of came to me as I was going beyond it, which is the child who built the tower isn't here at the moment. And the woman, I'm seeing her as a woman, may well be trying to think about, maybe it's a mother, maybe not, trying to think about what can I do for my child who has just lost something that they beautifully built and was blown away by the wind. With, by the way, also noticing the wind didn't blow away the flowers that were on the windowsill. It did blow away the blocks, but not the flowers.
That's beautiful.
It's similar that a child we don't see built these blocks and was looking for a fun way to knock them down and creative way. And so his or her mother opened the window to be part of the game, to be engaging with her child and how we can find a fun way to knock down the blocks and make this into a game.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more.
One more. Go
I had
ahead.
another last thought, and that is the blocks were there, the wind blows them down, and the mother comes in perhaps to rebuild them.
Okay. Or upset that her daughter didn't close the window. So, in all the years that I've been teaching, that I've been presenting this to many different audiences of various ages and different affiliations, it didn't matter. Nobody ever came up with the idea that the wind blew into the room and built up a tower of blocks. Because intrinsically, everyone knows that design indicates designer. Intelligent design, therefore, indicates intelligent designer. But the idea that chaos, randomness, can never create order by accident. This is a tiny piece of the mitzvah of one of the Sheish Mitzvahs Tmidios, which is Leda, to know that there's a God, to believe that there's a creator. It's the mitzvah of emunah. And the reason that it's constant is because we are constantly surrounded with his creations. We're constantly surrounded by his presence. You know, when you say someone has emunah, he has emunah, you can't just have emunah. Emunah has to be developed. Emunah has to be thought about. Emunah has to be worked on. Emunah has to be noticed. Hashem's presence has to be worked on by us. We have to invest personally in seeing his wisdom, in seeing the depth of the beauty of his creations. And we can do that on a constant basis, and therefore it is a constant obligation, simply because we are faced with it constantly. So it's always there for us. And this is just a way, one of the ways of building in the children, in the students, the consciousness, the God consciousness that they can have every moment of their lives and throughout their entire day, 24/7. Anybody have any questions about the way we present the curriculum, about the way it's disseminated? Obviously, I think Leba mentioned it, we have to do teachers training first. It's this PBL, which requires the teacher to be invested, to understand the methodology, of course, to be very familiar with the 6 constant mitzvahs. And then, after training the teachers, it is our hope that it will be implemented in every school, across every denomination in the world. Please God.
Yeah, this seems wonderful. I'm wondering about the role of parents in this because, I didn't have too many asterisks on my card, unfortunately, for all the reasons you were talking about, how busy life is with young children, working, and all of that. Have you thought about ways or creating material for parents to reinforce this in their homes, because we know that school is only one place and maybe parents sometimes put too much emphasis on what they could expect the schools, how much the schools can inspire. We know that all of that also has to happen in the home. So have you thought about a way to involve parents in this journey?
Absolutely. we have thought of, globally, this needs to be in everybody's heart and in everybody's mind and in everybody's lives. Unfortunately, we have to start somewhere. So we, just started with the children in schools because it's much more challenging to gather all the parents. The kids are in the school for 8 hours a day. We have them where we want them. So and they have a teacher. So the opportunity, the infrastructure is there. So it's low-hanging fruit, so we start there. Where actually, there have been boys' yeshivas that have approached us. We would like this in our schools as well. Can we adapt it to boys? Kind of change the pictures and whatever, the language maybe, or the examples, different activities. And that's our next.
And it's also applicable for day schools as well, for modern Orthodox schools that are co-ed, because this is really about being a human being and about human needs and about human desires. And as far as the parents go, we've had discussions about, along with our retreats, for doing symposiums for the parents. It's something that we've been working on. It's still in in infant stages, but to be able to introduce the information to the parents so that they are comfortable with it when their kids are coming home with it. And then it kind of becomes a culture in the home of saying, where did you see Hashem today? And when that person, when you're get stuck in the traffic, the conversation in the car changes. So we do agree with you that the parents are an integral part of it. And yeah,
But these are the future parents. These are our future parents. So we're starting with.
And part of the curriculum, what the kids will actually bring home with, like one example is they can come home with post-its that says, Hashem loves me. Well, that's going to be in their home already, right? So you're slowly integrating into the home, and then you can also start with parent outreach. Anybody else? Yes. Yeah.
So is this something that's integrated just through the Judaic studies portion of the day if you have a school that does solely Judaic studies? And if it's, I see you shaking your head, so if it isn't, how is these very profound ideas presented in a really accessible way, how do you deal with the fact that, traditionally for secular studies, especially at modern Orthodox schools, you might have non-Jewish teachers? So how do you balance, people's, personal views and beliefs and things like that with incorporating this into the culture of learning even outside of Judaic subjects?
That's a great question. Well, it absolutely would require a teacher that either believes in Hashem or wants to. And they would have to familiarize themselves with this material. And it is all about Hashem's presence in our lives. It's also about human needs across the board. And I do tell my students, and they're all very religious, that the need for self-respect, meaning, and pleasure that we are each as human beings wired with has nothing to do with our religious affiliation. These are three innate desires that every human being, just by definition of being human, needs them, wants them, and without them, their life is meaningless. So that's across the board. And the reason that Hashem wired us with these innate desires is because with them, we can then translate that into a relationship with Hashem. And God does want a relationship with every human being.
And to answer your question even further is, we do know that many, many schools, even Beis Yaakovs and yeshivos, have non-Jewish secular studies teachers. It's not just, it's not just the modern Orthodox day schools. The principal, why is it so important that the principal has to be on board? Because they set the tone in the culture. Just like those principals that Tzippy just mentioned, those non-Jewish teachers or those secular teachers need to be aware this is the culture of our school, and it has to permeate all the way through the general studies curriculum.
One more thing, we provided a sample, number one, a listing in the guidebook. There's a listing of the 6 constant mitzvot. Can't talk about these deep conversations in 5 minutes that we were given. So we did provide that, and we also provided a sample of what the curriculum looks like. Thank you.